All right, here it goes. Okay, good morning, everybody. May peace and power elevation be to all of you. This is Tiffany coming through live in effect. So as you guys can see that I'm kind of up early and I want to go ahead and get this started. So let's talk. What do I mean about a dead language? What do I mean when I say that Medu Neter is a dead language? All right, let's get into the definition of what a dead language is, an extinct language, and an endangered language. All right, so an extinct language is a language that is no longer spoken and that is no longer in use, period. So that means that it is no longer around. Nobody speak the language. It's not even studied upon. All right. So for an example, a extinct language will be like Sumerian language, which was an isolated language that was spoken by the people in the Mesopotamia area. That language has become extinct. All right. It's no longer in usage. It's not a native tongue anymore. Nobody speaks Sumerian language, and nobody really study it in the academia area, okay? That's what we mean by the extinct language. It's no longer in use at all, and it's no longer studied, okay? Now, an endangered language is a language that's getting ready to become extinct, or it's getting ready to lose its native tongue. So, endangered language will be something like Coptic. Coptic is considered as an endangered language, even though it is spoken today and is used in religious texts, right, in Egypt. However, because Arabic being the dominant language that is spoken by the Egyptian and being the native language, the Coptic language won't be around as long. So it's going into a state of becoming extinct. It's endangered because not many people speak Coptic, and it's only used by those who are Christian and that use it in the religious texts. And Coptic is the last surviving language of the Medu Neter, all right, with Greek transliteration. Now, a dead language is a language that is not spoken by those in a native country. So that means that it's no longer used as a native language. However, those who are scholars or those who are educators, they study the language. They study the language and its premises and all of that, but the language itself is not spoken by those who are the native of that land. Okay? So if a language is not spoken by those who are a native of that land, but it's still used in some form of studies, it's considered as a dead language. And that's what I mean when I say Medu Neter is a dead language, meaning that it's not spoken by the native people. The native people of today in Egypt do not speak Medu Neter. All right? As a native language. They don't speak Medu Neter as a native language. The language that is spoken by the people in Egypt of today is Arabic. And it's called Egyptian Arabic. Because why? Because the Egyptian predominantly practice Islam. So by Islam is associated with Arabic language. All right? So it's been around for decades and decades, centuries. So it's been around for centuries, and that's the language that is going to be spoken until that language become extinct or become an endangered language. Then another language come around. Now, can language become extinct at a certain period of time? Yes. Eventually, they become extinct. Can language become a dead language? Yes. Can they become endangered? Yes. So with that being said, if you have to reconstruct a language, right, that means that language is pretty much dead. Means that it's not even in usage. It's not spoken by those in native. So if I have to reconstruct something, that means that I would have to rebuild that language back up so it can be spoken again. So anybody that say we're going to reconstruct the language, that means we're going to rebuild this language. We're going to rebuild this language to get it back to the origin and get it back to being spoken as a native language again. So with that case, with the Medu Neter language, the people who say that they reconstructing it, they're trying to build it as a native language, as a language that can be spoken by people again. And they trying to keep it from becoming an extinct language, because that's where it's getting to. So right now it's a dead language because it's not spoken by those that are the native of that land. But with few academics and scholars and linguistics, by them studying Medu Neter, they're trying to keep it from becoming extinct. Because all the other language that came before it, like demonic and I can't think of the name of the other script, all the other language that came before it, it became extinct. So, the best thing for people to really study is Coptic. If you really gonna study the Medu Neter, you need to study Coptic, because Coptic is the last surviving language of the Medu Neter. Because by Medu Neter being a dead language, it'll be better to study that. And it's better to study Coptic and keep Coptic from becoming a dead language in itself or becoming extinct. So you'll be better off reconstructing in the Coptic language. You're better off trying to teach that. But people are not teaching Coptic. They're teaching Medu Neter. But then how can you teach Medu Neter and you don't study Coptic? That's the part that I don't understand. Because if I'm gonna teach a language, right? A language that especially is a dead language, and the only surviving language of that language that is around is only used by those in certain areas, I would study that current language that is the surviving language. I would study that language and I would learn about that language fluently. And then once I learn that language, then I can try to incorporate and reconstructing that dead language to bring it back to a native form. So again, listen, anybody that say that we are reconstructing a language, that means that they're trying to rebuild a language that has lost its native tongue. That's what they're doing. They're trying to rebuild a language that lost its native tongue and is not spoken by those in that native country. Because think about it. If Medu Neter was spoken as of right now as a native language in the country of Egypt, then there would be no reason to reconstruct it. There will be no reason for that language to become reconstructed if it's spoken by the people in Egypt. Hold on, give me one moment. As a matter of fact, you don't have to agree with my definition of reconstruction. I can go pull it up right now. But people think that I'm crazy. I'm psycho. I'm just saying random stuff. Hold on, give me a second. Okay, this is the wrong dictionary. I'll be right back. Just give me one moment. Give me a moment, everybody. So, I'm back. I had to get my dictionary. So, to correct my knowledge or to make sure that I'm on point, I can pull it up in the dictionary and we can look up what the word reconstructing means. Because I don't think many people who claim to be scholars ever explain what it means for a language to be reconstructed. Okay. Reconstructed. Reconstruct, which is a verb. To construct again. Rebuild. Exactly, just like I said. I'm going to read it again. Reconstruct. To construct again. Rebuild. Just like I said. Now, reconstruction, which is a noun. The action of reconstructing, the state of being reconstructed. Often cap, the reorganization, reestablishment of the city, state, and the Union after the American Civil War. That's irrelevant to the topic. Something reconstructed. So reconstruction, the first definition, which is a noun, an action of reconstructing, the state of being reconstructed. So therefore, if a language has to be reconstructed, it has to be rebuilt. As I mentioned before. And I was correct. So anytime somebody say they have to reconstruct the language, that means they rebuild a language because that language was pretty much dead. Or it has lost its relevancy in the linguistics. So if somebody sitting up here say they have to reconstruct the Medu Neter language, that means the Medu Neter was a dead language. And that means that language is getting ready going to extinct. So it'll start off as a dead language, right? And it'll go from if it continues to stay as a dead language, eventually it'll become an extinct language. So what these people are trying to do, they're trying to save the Medu Neter language from becoming an extinct language. So they're trying to take what is left of that language and trying to build off of that to remodel it, to bring back the native tongue, to make it a full language again that can be spoken. That's all they're trying to do. Because right now, it's at a dead point. It's at a dead point and it's not spoken by the people in the native land. It's not spoken by those Egyptians. And the only Egyptian that's speaking a language that is of the Medu Neter is the Coptic language. Because that's a surviving language of the Medu Neter. And that language itself is going to become extinct. Because not very many people speak the language. So what the point I'm making is, it will be wiser to study Coptic and speak on the Coptic language, since that's the surviving language that is left of the Medu Neter. It will be wise to study the Coptic terminology definition. Then you can figure out how to reconstruct the Medu Neter. It'll be better to sit down and talk to somebody that speaks Coptic. Have you ever thought about that? Have you ever thought, well, maybe let's learn the Coptic language. Let's learn from those who speak the Coptic. So that way we can figure out some of the Medu Neter words, and whatever the words that's in the Medu Neter language, we can build from there. But see, these people want to, excuse me, these people want to charge you buku money to speak a language that is no longer in use. They want to charge you money to learn how to speak Medu Neter. But who's speaking Medu Neter though? Who's speaking Medu Neter as a native tongue? No one. They're not teaching you Coptic. which to me that's backwards. How you not teaching Coptic but you teaching Medu Neter? That doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense to me. How are you teaching Medu Neter and not teaching Coptic? Just like when people say about Rainy Kemet. If Coptic is Rainy Kemet, why are you not teaching it? Why don't you know Coptic? But getting back to the whole point that I was making, that's what I mean when I say Medu Neter is a dead language. Meaning that it is not a native language anymore. It's no longer a native language, and it's no longer spoken as a native language, but it's only used in studies and research. That's all it is. Nobody speaks the Medu Neter language in Egypt as of today. And if you can point out, if you can show me the name of the people that speak the Medu Neter language in Egypt as of right now, in the current state, then I will correct myself. But from the last time I checked, and from the sources that I looked at, no one is speaking that language. The language that is spoken today in Egypt is Arabic as a native language. And there's only a few people or certain areas that are speaking Coptic. Only certain areas speaks the Coptic language, and that is mainly because of the religious texts. And it's mainly by those who are Coptic Christian. But everywhere else, overall, as a language, as the primary language, as a native language of today in Egypt is Arabic. And it's called Egyptian Arabic, not Medu Neter. So, next time, for any of you, if you deal with a scholar that say we're going to reconstruct the language of the Medu Neter, ask them what do they mean by reconstruction, and ask them why are they reconstructing a language. Okay? This is the question we should be asking. What do you mean by reconstruction? And why are you reconstructing the language of Medu Neter? And see what type of response you're going to get. So I hope that I disambiguate all of the confusion that people was getting, because a lot of people blew this out of proportion. They blew this out of proportion. It went over many people's head. So now I made this video clarifying things, breaking it down. Hopefully you would get what I meant and not take it out of context as if I'm playing hating on the Medu Neter or I'm hating on Egypt and all this other stuff. Because that's not what I'm doing. I'm just stating the facts. Someone asked, and that's why they call it the Book of the Dead. Well, the Book of the Dead is about those individuals who were around during that time period, during the dynasty. They're talking about those who are the ancestors in Egypt, basically. But language does play a part there too. They do speak on the language in the Book of the Dead. Now, I really haven't read the book myself personally, so I don't know the whole entire thing, but I do know that it's talking about those ancestors in Egypt. And what they were doing during the time period. So, anyways, that's it. That's all. That's all I wanted to talk about this morning. And I hope everyone have a good day. And I hope that many people get a better understanding of what I meant and not take it the wrong way. But it don't matter what I say. People still gonna misconstrue what I said and try to use it against me. But anyways, though, you all have a wonderful day. And may peace and power and elevation be to all of you. And I will talk to you next time.